preview of Sam Levitt's show. He's going to come in for the last segment. We're just going to talk about what he's been doing as of late. And we're also going to be talking about something that makes me feel very old. We'll talk about that in the second segment. And we will also give you a daily gripe. And I have a daily gripe that concerns the NFL, and it's something that I don't think anyone would think about when I'm going to gripe. So keep that in mind because, hey, the NFL does scheduling very well, and they do all the games, that we want to see most of the time. But this time around, I think they made a mistake, and I'm going to tell you why. But today, we have just a few news notes. We'll get through those, and then we'll see where else the Skraby Show takes us. But Frank, let's go through the news of the day.
It's time to get caught up on the latest with the news of the day.
All right. Mike Shildt officially announced as the Padres manager, or not announced as the Padres manager. He's been extended through 2027, so he will be with the team. There's no lame duck status for Mike Shildt. We played some of the audio earlier in the Gwynn and Chris show. I know that Sam's going to revisit that, so I'm going to leave that for Mr. Levitt, and he will talk about that. But Mike Shildt, with his extension, like I said last night, it's just more familiarity for the team. And I really, after listening to those sound bites, I really do think that his time with the team before he became manager was the key for him getting this job. And AJ does say during it that he's been on their radar for quite a while. And AJ has been, maybe keeping in the back of his mind that Mike Shildt could be a guy for the managerial job for a very long time. But I think that what he did with the team, he came in after he was let go by the Cardinals, which had to have been hard on him. And he came in and he just kind of put his head down. He worked. He got to know the organization. He got to know the players. He got to know how the Padres organization runs. And so he made his way up, and then he got to the manager spot. Last year they go to the playoffs. Not the finish that we all wanted, but I think this is the right move for the Padres. Mike Shildt is the guy for the team, and they should be happy that he is going forward with the team. And he was also saying, and I know Sam's going to go back and revisit it, so you'll hear it from him later, but he was saying that the visions between he and A.J. Preller align, and they are both have a common goal, obviously, of winning a championship, but they have a common goal on how to build a team together. So I think possibly the reason A.J. Preller did so well last year may be because Mike Shildt and A.J. Preller have the same sort of thought process on what players to bring in and all of that. So we'll see that relationship get stronger as they go along. But it's a good thing for the Padres to have Mike Shildt under contract through 2027. Mike Shilt's former team, the Cardinals, is actually going to be moving one of their players position-wise, and it was former catcher Wilson Contreras. He's going to make a permanent move to first base, John Mozeliak confirmed today. Today. Mozeliak said, "We think that being such a productive hitter, not catching will make him a better hitter. How do we protect his career is the question." So he signed a 5-year, $87.5 million contract that runs through 2027. Last year, he ended up breaking his arm because he was hit with a swing. And the reason for that was because he was trying to steal some strikes. And Tony and Chris have been talking about this. They extend their arm a little bit further into the hitter's area, and that's why we're seeing a lot more catcher interference, is because they're putting their arm further out there, trying to get that strike instead of letting it travel further back to them. Personally, I don't really think it makes a difference, but apparently this team does think it makes a difference, and so they're going to move him to first base because they think he's going to be better there. They're going to go with another catcher. I like Wilson Contreras. What he did last year was pretty good for the Cardinals in the time that he was able to play, because he got hurt a few times. He hit 15 home runs. He had an 8.42 OPS, but with that broken arm and some other injuries, he only played 84 games. I'm really interested to see what the Cardinals look like going forward, because they're getting older, and there doesn't seem to be a youth movement for them. Now, I'm not an expert on the Cardinals minor league system, but you could kind of tell in the past the Cardinals just had player after player after player to put out there, and the Cardinals have struggled the last few years. It's something that we haven't really seen. So looking forward to seeing not looking forward to, but curious to see what the Cardinals do in the future. And the final news story that we're going to talk about today, it's a little bit of a slow news day, everybody, so that's why we're talking about Juan Soto and what Scott Boras said. We talked a lot about Scott Boras today and talked about Adrian Morejon leaving Scott Boras and going towards, I believe, Manny Machado's agent, Dan Lozano. And Juan Soto, according to Boras, he says that Soto desires a thorough vetting process before making a decision. He went on to say, due to the volume of interest and Juan's desire to hear from teams, I can't put a time frame on it, but it's going to be a very thorough process for him. He wants to meet people personally. He wants to talk with them. He wants to hear from them. He wants ownership that's going to support that they are going to win annually. Owners want to meet with Juan and sit down and talk with him about what they're going to provide for their franchise short-term and long-term. I think this is all smokescreen. I think this is all kind of just, painting Juan Soto in a good light, because all the reporting leading up to now is Juan Soto's just looking for the biggest contract that he can get. And the teams that are going to give him that contract are the Mets and the Yankees, most likely. And we'll get to Frank in just a second. We'll ask Frank. Frank's here in studio, our resident Mets fan. I'll get his thoughts on Juan Soto possibly joining the Mets. But Russ Dorsey said it earlier. He doesn't think he's going to get anywhere near what Shohei Ohtani got, which is the 10 years, $700 million. I know that Juan Soto is a great player. We did see some of the defense in the World Series be a little bit of an issue for him. But at the plate, he's great, and he will help a team. And but the thing is, and I've said this a couple times, I don't know that Juan Soto is the right move for your team, paying him so much money and kind of handcuffing yourself to a long contract. And I guess I can kind of liken it to Xander Bogaerts here in San Diego a little bit. That contract for Xander Bogaerts, when it gets down to the end, he's going to be older, and he's definitely, in my mind, not going to be producing anywhere near what he's being paid. So Juan Soto, he's young. He's extremely young, actually. I believe he just turned 25 earlier in October. October 25th, he turned 25 or 26. But he hit 41 home runs last year, 109 RBIs. He loved playing in New York. I know that he desires a big city. I know that he desires I don't know this, but I've heard that he desires an East Coast team. So the Yankees, Mets, basically the only two that are going to be able to bid on him. All right, let's go to the chat real quick and do our little roll call. We got Rod, we got Katrina, we got Trevor, we got Ken, we got Podzilla, we got Dan, we got more Ken, we got Trevor, we got Nate, Jacob, Jax. Let's see. I don't want to keep. That's it. Rod. I can't forget Rod. Thank you to everyone for being here. If you want to watch the show, you can go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. You'll be able to see me. And right now, I'm going to put Mr. Frank Marchese on the screen. Frank, your name is Braden on that thing, but
I never change it, so it's...
Me neither. To be honest,
point.
I never changed it either. So I'm usually either Adam or Braden because they seem to be the ones who change it. But Frank has been out a little bit. I want to talk to you about your surgery and your weight loss surgery in the next segment a little bit because I think it's important for people to hear what you went through, what you're going through. But I want to talk about Juan Soto and the Mets. Do you think your Mets are going to sign Juan Soto? And do you think, or do you want your Mets to sign Juan Soto?
I think they will. They had a lot of money open up over the course of this offseason. Scherzer's no longer on the books. Verlander's no longer on the books. A lot of guys that had those big contracts are gone. As far as who else is playing in right field, you have Starling Marte. This is his last year with the team. I do believe that Steve Cohen is crazy enough to give Soto exactly what he wants.
He names his price.
Yeah.
And Steve Cohen says, come on over.
Yeah. The richest owner in baseball. I do believe that that's going to be the case. Do I want him? Who wouldn't want a generational talent? You guys went absolutely insane when he came here, and rightfully so. To lock him up for 13 years, until he's like 40 at $600+ million.
It's the price of doing business with Juan Soto.
You're putting a lot of faith in the fact that he is going to stay as good as he was last year.
I have a little bit of not trepidation, but I want to know. I don't know. How do I say this without seeming like a hater? I think that maybe once he gets his contract, there is possibly a little less motivation to be great, even though Juan Soto could wake up, roll out of bed, and be great. I'm not saying that he's going to be a lazy athlete or anything like that, but once you get that big contract, sometimes your mind goes a little bit elsewhere. Like, you don't want to do that extra lap. You're like, I got it already.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, especially with how he handled it here. He had 2 years, 3 years of control when he got here, 2.5 technically. Wasn't going to get a contract extension when he got here. I see where you're coming from with that. I don't think his first year with the Mets is going to be good, because you got to think there's a lot when, like, say with Xander Bogaerts signing here. There's a lot behind the scenes that we never talk about that goes into that. You have to move. You have to pack up your house. You have to find one. You have to put your kids into school. There's a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes. Plus, American League and National League Baseball is different. Now, he's played in the National League for a vast majority of his career, so I don't see that being too big of an issue. But there is going to be a change. There is going to be a lot of stuff that happens that we don't see and we don't talk about that might hinder his first year and certainly would give the impression. I think he also will feed off a guy like Francisco Lindor having the season that he had and trying to either match him or be better than him, which is only good for the team.
If like Scott Boras said, he wants to meet with everyone, he wants to vet everything. If he's doing that and he meets with Steve Cohen, I think he's going to see really quick that Steve Cohen is willing to do anything to win, and that means spend a lot of money. So
Yamamoto spoke very highly of Steve Cohen in the meetings that they had before he eventually ended up signing with the Dodgers.
Ugh.
I think it was.
Sorry, that was a reaction.
I think it was the money.
You think the $325 million that he got?
The Mets weren't far off of that.
What did they get? Or what did they offer him?
I think it was 300. It was either that or just slightly north of that. But Yamamoto spoke very highly about meeting with Steve Cohen, went to his house, had dinner, met and talked with the family. So Steve Cohen will impress anyone he needs to impress.
I'm just thinking about that meeting. I know that I would be so awkward. Like in
so would I.
Steve Cohen's house, like he's trying to wine and dine you, getting to sign with his team. And I would just be like, what am I this is so weird. All he wants me here for is so I can play for his team, and he could pay me a lot of money. Yeah. But we'll see what happens with Juan Soto. I mean, he's going to be one of the names that we tell our grandkids about. So,
and he's made it very clear, especially at the beginning of the season, that if you read between the lines of what he's saying, he's always said from the start that him being on the Yankees was a 1-year loan. It didn't sound like from the beginning of the year that he was going to come back. So I would have to assume he's not going to be a Yankee next year.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. All right, that's Frank Marchese. I'm Matt Skraby. This is the Skraby Show. When we get back, I'm going to talk about something that made me feel so old when I read about it, and also we're going to talk to Frank to see what he's been up to in the last couple of weeks. And then after that, Sammy Lev is going to come in here. We're going to talk before the premiere of his show on 97.3 The Fan. Thank you for everybody joining us. You can on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. Back shortly. Marchese, and Sam Levitt is sitting outside. He'll be joining us in the next segment. I will put myself on the screen for just a second, and I will tell you a couple stories, and then we're going to talk to Frank again, and I'll bring him back on the screen. But I feel very, very old when I saw this news story, and it has to do with a former USC Trojan. Matt Leinart is apparently old enough now to have a kid who is going into college. Matt Leinart's son, Cole Leinart, is a junior at California's Redondo Union High School. He's not currently rated by ESPN, but he has some Power 4 offers. He ended up committing to SMU, and this is what Cole Leinart said. The culture they're building at SMU, I just want to be a part of it. I love the coaching staff. They're literally like family now. I just want to be a part of what they have there. So good for him for moving into the college ranks, or at least, figuring out his future. But it makes me feel so old that Matt Leinart has a kid that's old enough to go to college. Like, it's one of those things where we keep, it's like, for the longest time, athletes were always older than me. And even the young athletes were older than me. But as you get older, like Rudy Gay retired the other day. And I'm like, Rudy Gay retired? He was in the NBA for like 16 years? I remember his rookie year. So it's weird if you're like 20-something out there, or, low 30s. It's super strange once you get to a point where all the athletes are younger than you. And then it's even weirder when you see athletes that are 2003. What's going on, Frank? Frank's got okay, he's good. All right. But anyway, it just made me feel really old. I'm sure that other people out there have, feel old, but Jack says, we keep getting older and they stay the same age. Yes, I think that was Fast Times at Ridgemont. I don't know. You'll let me know. The other story that I wanted to talk about. Oh, Nate says, also you feel old when players start to pass away. Yes, you do. I don't like this whole old thing. I know I'm not that old. I'm 39 years old. I'll be 40 in May. But when I see someone who was born after I graduated high school and they're playing professional sports or at least high-level college sports, makes me feel really old. On Gwen and Chris, we actually talked about this, and I'm giving you an update. So the Warriors went to Boston to play the Celtics. Boston. And Steve Kerr, was Team USA's basketball coach in the Olympics. And as we all know, he sat Jason Tatum basically the entire tournament. Didn't think that he needed to play. Well, Boston fans, we were wondering how it was going to go with Steve Kerr, whether or not Boston fans were going to ignore it, whether or not Boston fans were going to boo him. Well, I'll just let you know Boston fans did what Boston fans do, and they booed him. And Steve Kerr actually waved to the crowd while he did that. I don't think, because this was like we were saying, it was the Jason Tatum revenge game. I don't know that Jason Tatum had that great of a game, which is unfortunate. Right now, it's going into the fourth quarter, the Warriors are up by 82-81. But Jason Tatum he's got 25 points. He's picked it up. He's picked it up from when we saw him earlier. He's got 25 points now. He's made 5 threes, 6 free throws, 7 for 14 field goals. So he's doing better. But the ultimate, I guess, stick it to you moment would be him winning over the Warriors. I don't think he really cares. I mean, it kind of stinks to go all the way to Paris and just not do anything, especially when you're an athlete like Jason Tatum. But, Dominic says, when I'm in a liquor store and the "you must have been born by this date to be 21" sign is there, and it's now 2003, I feel very old. I graduated high school in 2003. I feel very old too.
I was watching the UEFA Champions League today, Inter Milan versus Arsenal. Arsenal had a player that was born in 2007. Made his
17 years old.
Made his English Premier League debut at 15.
That's
wild.
awful.
That's awful.
That is wild to me. I don't know. We talked about this when I think it was the LA Galaxy, an MLS team signed a kid who was like 14.
Yeah, I think it was the Philadelphia Union.
That's it.
Put a kid that was 14 in a game.
Yeah, and he's good enough apparently.
Yes.
His brother was on the team, but I feel like there's something about taking a 14-year-old and putting him in a professional athlete setting and robbing them of their child. I had so much fun in high school. I know this guy's going to have fun because he's a professional athlete.
Yeah.
But what if he burns out by his 19? What if he gets hurt? I mean, he's got the whole life in front of him to figure out what he has to do. I mean, I hope nothing like that happens, but I can't even imagine. I was not mature enough at 14 to be a professional player of any kind.
Not even close.
I was not mature enough this morning to be a professional player of any kind.
Fair.
That's got to be so much pressure to be a professional athlete at the age of 14. Then you got all these other old guys that are like 30. They're like, who's this guy over here? He's making all the money, and now I'm going to have to retire. And he was born like 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. All right, Frank, let's talk. You were out a little bit in the last couple weeks. What was going on? Tell us what happened and how you're doing.
So I have made a decision to take control of my life again.
I like that.
My weight was getting out of hand, had been out of hand for a while, and I decided to do something about it. I went to Old Del Mar Surgical to see Dr. Sunil Boyrul, and gave me the option, and I took it, of having a stomach sleeve surgery. So basically what that is they go in, knock you out, and take 80% of your stomach.
Do you say 80?
Yes, 80.
So I've had family members who have had similar surgeries, not the same one, and I know that after you get the surgery, it's very difficult to figure out how to eat, how much to eat, and it's kind of like SD fat loss. It's a lot of trial and error. And so, what have you what's your program been since you've been done with the surgery?
I had the surgery on the 24th. I had it at the Scripps Medical Center in La Jolla. The nurses, doctors, everyone there were absolute angels. They could not have made anything easier. They were so perfect. Had surgery on the 24th. I was supposed to be home the next day. I didn't recover well coming out of anesthesia.
I mean, that's Oh,
And,
did you see my picture last time when I went under the knife
No,
for
I
certain?
didn't.
Okay, let me put it up here because someone ended up. Here is if you're on the YouTube stream, you just go to search 97.3 The Fan. That was me.
Oh, yes, I have seen.
Yes, that was me after the shoulder. I literally am just out of surgery, and they're telling I was begging for my phone to take a picture, and they were just entertaining me.
I did not have the high as a kite look. I had the I am going to vomit everywhere look. And
Some people get very sick. I
Yeah.
didn't get sick from it, but some people have adverse reactions to anesthesia.
that was definitely me. Ended up staying in the hospital until the 27th. I had to be on a liquid diet the 2 weeks prior.
Oh,
So
that's so hard to do.
that's why Gatorade Zero, sponsor me, please, because you've kept me alive over the last month. Crystal Light, sugar-free ice pops, Jello, sugar-free Jello, obviously water. That was the 2 weeks before, and now the first 2 weeks after, which comes up tomorrow. I have an appointment tomorrow. Hopefully, we move on to the puree stage, which I'm very excited for. And then
Things I've never thought I would heard. I'm
Trust
excited
me.
for the puree stage.
when you haven't
I can't-
had food
That's
in a
weird.
month,
That's weird.
You'll eat anything at this point.
Do you? When I stopped drinking, I chewed a lot of gum. I got a lot of flavored gum. Oh, you're chewing gum right now. You just got to choose something. It's so weird. Rod wants to know, Frank, can you eat baby food?
I don't know. Probably tomorrow that door will open up, but I'll be at that stage for a month, and then hopefully by the first full week of December, I should be back to being able to eat normally again. Obviously, not what the amount I was able to, but what I was able to. It should be good to go from there.
Ken says, "Congrats to you. Live healthy and live long. My aunt did the same. Has been wonderful. Same thing. Took a day longer, but was great and has done great since. So
It's not a cure-all. It's not a fix. It's not.
It's not like a.
It's not a bypass.
It's not like
surgery.
liposuction or. It's not
No.
like you just snap your fingers and everything works and you
No,
lose weight.
this can be undone if I'm not careful. So
Yeah.
I could end up back where I was. So it's very much on me. I've already, in this month that this process has been going on, as of this morning, I've lost 50 pounds. This shirt I'm wearing right now, I haven't worn in years. So
I know that feeling with SD fat loss. Doesn't it feel so good when you finally? Because I kept shirts in my closet as motivation, and
Yep.
they sat there for a very long time because I couldn't fit into them. And then once SD fat loss happened and I lost my 40 pounds, I was putting on the shirts that I hadn't worn in like 3 years. It was great. It just feels good.
Yeah,
And
I needed an emotional bump yesterday before everything happened. And I definitely got it when I realized I'm replacing my current 6-shirt rotation with an old 6-shirt rotation.
well, great. I have like a 3-shirt rotation. The guys were just making fun of me for my sweatshirt. By the way, I do have a merch store now, everybody. Like, I'm not like thinking it's going to make me rich or anything, but people have asked for it, so I put it on the bottom. The Skrabinator shop is what it's called. But there's a lot of good questions.
Yeah, I'm seeing them in here.
And McKee says Frank is glowing. Blue Meanie has a question, and it's what motivated you to do the surgery instead of SD fat loss?
When I went to Dr. Boyrule for the first time, you get a full body scan, genetics, everything like that. And from what he saw with the way I am genetically, my body stores fat for a long, harsh winter that's never going to come.
Tell me about it.
So
I know that too.
So if I were to just eat, if I were just to work out, eat, go on a regular diet, I'd only lose about 40 pounds naturally before I plateaued and I was done.
Yeah.
So with this, that was supposed to help get me past that. And in a month, it's already got me past it.
That's awesome. I'm proud of you, Frank. I think
Thank you.
it takes.
And thank you to everybody in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of good lucks. You can do it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the support, and my family's been great with this. And it's step one, but it's a step.
It's a step. It's tough to make that decision. Like, I liken eating and weight management into kind of like the whole alcoholic thing, where it's very emotional. It's
Yes.
like, because I eat because I'm bored, or I eat just because I see it. I'm not even hungry and I'm eating. And it's a lifestyle. It's a mental change that you have to make. And I'm proud of you for doing it, Frank. It takes a lot for someone to do that.
You have no idea, and I'm sure you could probably relate to this in some way. The third night of my liquid diet, I was laying in bed at 3:30 in the morning, jittering, looking at my keys, saying, I am going to McDonald's right now. I am going,
What would
I
you
am
have
going,
ordered?
I am going. Everything. At that point, it would have been one of everything.
Now, can you...
But I did not do it because I kept saying to myself, I'm only cheating myself.
Exactly.
So I did not do it.
When I was a drinker, I used to have the rubber band on my hand, snap myself, just because I guess it's for me. One of my people who helped me get sober she said, move a muscle, change a thought. And so if you go for a walk or you get up and you walk to the bathroom or to the bedroom, you might forget about what you want to be doing, which is eating. So anyway.
It happens all the time when I don't want to do that.
Exactly. Same with me. Same with me. I mean, I sleep eat all the time, which is terrible. I eat a soap sandwich, as everybody knows.
Attaboy.
Anyway, thank you for sharing that.
Irish Spring?
No, it was Dawn.
Attaboy.
It was kitchen soap.
That's the good one too.
Yeah.
Did you get the citrus one?
No.
Oh.
I bit into it and then I woke up from my sleeping.
That stinks. You got to get the citrus one.
Next time. Next time.
That's
All
been
right.
the therapy session.
When we get back, we're going to talk to Sam Levitt. He's going to have his show starting in about 24 minutes from now, but we will visit with him in just, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, in just 5 minutes on 97.3 The Fan. Back here in the Odyssey Palace, 97.3 The Fan. We have a special guest here. You've already heard from Frank Marchese. You've already heard from me, Matt Skraby. Now you get to hear with Mr. Mojo himself, Sam Levitt, and he is wearing a Mojo hat. That's why I said, "Hey Sam, how you doing?"
Hey, what's up? How you guys doing? That was a very nice conversation you guys had in the previous segment about Frank's wonderful journey he's on. He looks great.
He does.
Talk more about it during our opening segment, but he does look very, very good. You can certainly see the 50 pounds down.
It was a noticeable difference when you walked in. It was funny because we were calling you. I was explaining Italian Paul to everyone, and then Italian Paul literally walked by as we were talking about Italian Paul. They also didn't know that Adam is called Bald Paul, which is hilarious.
Bald Rondo.
Bald Rondo, yeah, sorry. But that is really funny. But yes, conversations like that need to happen because people are out there, and it's like my drinking. I don't necessarily find it very comfortable to talk about it at times, but I know that it's helping people. I know that Frank is helping people.
With discomfort comes growth. That's a mantra I've taken on. So.
All right.
Very good.
You should tattoo that on your arm.
I will not.
Okay. Anyway, Sam, I'm not going to talk to you about anything Padres because you're going to have 2 hours to talk about.
Oh, yes, I am.
And
that's right.
We've already done the sound clips. We heard Mike Schilt was extended. But what have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
A little bit of everything. I mean, definitely some downtime, but working on some different stuff and doing a little planning for things like the winter meetings and whatnot. So it's been quieter, no doubt, but getting back into it with the new show coming up at 7 p.m. And we'll start getting into some content and the show and whatnot as we get deeper into the winter. So relaxing, Skraby.
You told us last week it's kind of weird when the season just ends.
Yeah.
And no one was expecting for that season to end. Did you kind of just walk aimlessly around for the next couple days because you were like, I got to do something?
No. It was a weird ending. I mean, I remember leaving Dodger Stadium on that Friday night, and I drove back to San Diego with Dave Marcus, who was very kind.
Wow.
Yes, kind enough to give me a ride.
What was that like?
It was great. Dave's a great guy. Yes, so we drove back to San Diego, and it was just odd that it was over so quickly, right? Yeah. It went from trailing game 4, but obviously having a wonderful opportunity at home in game 4 to then game 5 happening and it just feeling over really, really quickly and obviously in a stunning way. And we'll talk more about it in the next hour. But it's always beyond just the disappointment of losing. It's to me, even when I was in the minor leagues, it's always weird when the season comes to an end because it's just you go from being so deep into it every single day, all the different things you do. It's so consuming. Even going back to spring training, even when I'm in the studio here, like, hey, I'm prepping for the shows, watching the Padres a solid, 7-8 hours a day.
No joke.
And honestly, I'll say it from this perspective. I always, during the season, unless it's an off day, I always have the pregame show sort of hanging over my head.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
I always have, what I mean by that is I always have the prep.
And you're not saying hanging over your head like, oh, I'm dreading
doing
it. You're saying like, I got to get stuff done.
Hanging over my head's maybe a harsh way to put it. It's like when I wake up in the morning, and especially when they're at home and I don't have a lot of time right before the game to prep, like it is top of mind in the morning, every morning. Hey, I'm going to need a few hours to prep here, even when they're on the road and I'm in the studio, because it's either I'm doing it, in the couple hours before the show or I do it earlier in the day. So what I mean by hanging over my head is like, it is always omnipresent.
Oh yeah, I know that
if you will. It's always like, all right, at some point today, at some point this morning, I got to hunker down.
Doing my big 5. Here's my thing. I like to have the big 5 done, and I like to have, or at least 4 of them done, and I like to have all my reads set up in the document before I leave here, because for some reason, that hour that it takes between when I stop working and then when I get here, a lot of news breaks, and so
Yeah.
it's just it's funny to have a different
Well, I'm
prep cycle.
I'm pretty similar, and I've talked about this before, but especially when the Padres are at home, I like to have all the nuts and bolts of the pregame done. Right, so like every segment, the notes, who's hot, who's not, around the horn, the keys to the game, the pitching preview. Yes, I like to have it all written out and done because when I get to the ballpark, that's time A, to be in the clubhouse and on the field, to talk to guys, to record interviews, whatever I got to do. You know, sometimes I'm in the clubhouse I usually am the full, let's say 50 minutes it's open, with the goal of getting one interview. And sometimes I don't get that interview until the very end. Like I try to be in there the whole time one way or another. You know, it's about that. It's about being on the field. It's about getting the manager. And then I got to cut all that audio. And look, I go on an hour before the game. So it gets to, you know, say 5:40, gets there really quickly. You don't have a ton of time to do like the notes. And also it gives you time to, like, to your point, react to things that have gone on over the course of the afternoon, right? Like if there's news about a player, if there's something that pops up, whether it be for the Padres or whoever they're playing, gives you more time to kind of digest it, get your notes ready, get your interviews ready, whatever sound you might have. Every day is different, right? So anyway, I know this is super compelling, but
the Skraby Show, the Skrabinators out there, they love hearing the inside talk, like how we prepare, how, like last week I talked all about the rules of the clubhouse, which you're very familiar with. And when I went into the clubhouse, I didn't know that you couldn't sit down on these chairs. And then I sat down on the chairs, and everybody was very nice about everything. But there are certain
hold on.
rules.
The first time you sat?
Well, I was standing there for so long, and no one had sat in those chairs, and I was just like, okay. I mean, these look open.
Well,
they're on top of the SD logo, so you're allowed to stand on the SD logo.
Yeah, nobody sits. You know, I'd be curious to talk to some of the older, or I should say, more senior reporters, whether it be the Padres or elsewhere. And know if back in the day if they sat down in chairs in the clubhouse.
Annie Halbrand, the first time
if it was a little bit more casual in that sense, because now you wouldn't do it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But
it's here's the thing, and this is something I think that you're always mindful of, and I think all of us that go in the clubhouse every day are really mindful of. You're in their space.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like if somebody walked into your living room, right? You'd be respectful of their space. So whether that is not sitting down on chairs, right? Everybody sort of stands around. So that's one way you do it, but also like, you know, I think the way you approach guys and you ask for interviews and you're polite, and Frank has been in there plenty. He knows, like, you're in their space. So I think that's always important to remember. You're allowed to be there, and it's part of the gig. But yeah, you're always in their space.
Someone said, let's see. Oh, Jacob said, why in the hell would they have a chair in the room if you can't sit on it? It's for the players. It's like a nice, comfortable chair.
I'll tell you what is interesting though, and I found this.
You also can't talk to them while they're eating.
Wait,
which I understand. Do not bother me while I'm eating.
Yeah, I mean, you can casually, like,
you're
make
fine. You know the guys. It's more for people who are new.
You wouldn't do anything. Now, my job's a little bit different because everything I typically do, well, everything that's quote unquote on the record is typically recorded.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm doing it for the radio or video, whatever it might be. So, but yeah, you wouldn't like. I don't know. Maybe I don't think so. I think when guys are eating or have their headphones in, I leave them alone.
Just time out for 1 second. You said a chair. Did you sit in one of the locker chairs or the sofa? Okay.
No, it was the leather chairs that are in the middle of the room.
But I could see you walking in there for the first time and being like, "Oh, let me take a seat."
I was so nervous anyway.
I was petrified. I didn't want to stand anywhere.
What's interesting is a lot of guys don't even sit in those chairs.
They don't.
Very rare to. I would say it is very rare to see them sitting in the sofa chairs. The high tops, the high tops.
yes,
Now they
yes.
do eat there a lot.
Yeah,
Guys
yeah.
do sit there a little bit more, but there's not a lot of sitting in the sofa chairs. But I will say this: at spring training, they also have some, more like sofa type.
And they're always lounging.
Yeah, they're in there those a lot more. But also the clubhouse isn't as big, and you have way more guys in the
Yeah, that's
clubhouse, so
true.
there's not as much room.
Oh my gosh, it's already 6:53. I've loved this conversation. Oscar loves this conversation. But let's get to the daily gripe. You guys could be here with me for it.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
I just gotta say, I need to bring Sam in here earlier. We need longer segments here on these
I'm
Wednesdays. Oh, I guess you do have 2 hours ahead.
Longer segments.
My daily gripe. Here it is. I am an NFL fan. I'm not a daylight savings fan. I don't like the time change. But why did the NFL? Here's the gripe. Why didn't the NFL take advantage of last week, and put a game on in the morning when everybody's awake anyway? Because you wake up usually 6:30 in the morning. They have the London game,
Right.
And they're going to be in Germany now. Why would they not take advantage of the one weekend that everybody
It's only
is
an
up?
hour.
But I was up. Were you up? My dog woke me up.
No, well, I don't remember.
You don't remember? It happened on Sunday.
Well, I get up very early to begin with.
What time?
I try to get up by about 6 o'clock, 6 a.m., 5:30 sometimes.
Do you set
I
your
try.
alarm?
Yeah, if I go to sleep, I've been doing pretty well this off season so far. In bed by like 10, 11, up by 5, 6. So I really like the sun coming up earlier. It's nice.
Because it wakes you up faster.
Well, no, you can go to the beach, watch the sunrise. Like when the sun was coming up at 7 a.m., there was a weird period between like 6 and 7. I was like, what do I do if I want to go to the beach and watch the sunrise? Very romantic by
That is-
myself.
Well, you're wearing a Mojo hat, so, it makes sense. You got
What?
the Mojo, Sam. You got the
Okay.
Mojo.
It's a volleyball team.
I know, it is. And we talked to Carrie Walsh Jennings before.
Hey!
Yeah, she's very nice.
That's a heck of a guest.
She's an Olympic
You
hero.
should, you should have her
She's a
on more.
champion. We
Yeah,
should.
it'd be
You're
great.
right.
Talk a little bit about the Mojo.
When this station gets back, I will be done. Sam Levitt is taking over. Thanks, everybody, for listening to The Skraby Show. Have a great night. Look for Sam's video on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. Thank you. Good night.